So now we're at the 11 o'clock a.m. turn of three battles of Manassas in the Battle of the First Bull Run, starting with the Confederate turn. And General Holmes accepts his orders to move to the McLean house. So he's got his artillery detachment with him, and he limbers it, and the infantry starts crawling toward the Russia branch. Then General Jones also implements his orders to move into Newmarket. And his artillery is also limbered, and the infantry, in his case, moves into column formation and starts marching southwards along the Union Mills Road toward McLean's Ford. And General Jackson also accepts his orders and moves out and advances toward Henry House Hill. And you can see that in the picture here. It's showing, you can see Beauregard at the McLean house where his headquarters is. And you can see Jackson's brigade moving out in column to Henry House Hill. Also, the Hampton Legion resumes its march. And remember, that had orders to defend the Stone Bridge. Meanwhile, the battle continues on Matthews Hill. And Colonel Porter's men engage in defensive fire, and in this case, both Porter and Evans have extended lines all along the hill here, and Evans' brigade this time evaporates into a stream of stragglers. Evans' men didn't even have an opportunity to fire, but because their morale was so high, they ended up fighting right down to the last man until he was straggled away. Then just to the west, Colonel Hunter's 2nd Division is also faced with fire from General B and Colonel Bartow, who have fallen back. And this is not shown in the picture, but the Union orders defensive fire at a 2-hex range. That's not usually that effective. But Bartow's brigade suffers a loss and a straggler loss. They become disorganized and then fall back toward the Stone House, and that fortunately places Colonel Bartow's unit out of fire range now. We now go to the Union portion of the turn, and since they've been fired on, of course, the Union has to pass the so-called Corps attack stoppage. In this case, it's a division attack stoppage, but the 2nd Division does pass that, so they can continue on in the fight. And meanwhile, the U.S. 3rd Division under General Heinzelman is arriving from the flank with orders to attack Henry House Hill. And you can see he's depicted in the picture there, moving in column toward the railroad cut. So Heinzelman's division, I believe it's the 3rd Division, is really the 2nd wave in the Union flanking maneuver here. Then Colonel Porter's brigade, which is on Matthews Hill, which is depicted in the picture there, moves into the Matthews home and sets up camp there. And there is a rebel artillery detachment that is left on the east side of Matthews Hill. Both General B and Colonel Bartow's brigades continue defensive fire against Hunter's division. I don't have that in the picture here, but Hunter's division is advancing along the Manassas-Sudley Road. But this Confederate fire has no effect, but Colonel Burnside's brigade does fire back at General B's unit, and they suffer more losses, and Porter's brigade fires at Bartow's unit, which becomes shaken. And that really brings the 11 o'clock turn to a close. Then we go to the 11:30 a.m. turn. The Confederates they're the first player, and you can see in the picture here, General Jackson's brigade is continuing to move in column toward Henry House Hill, and they get as far as Flat Branch. And Cox's brigade continues to prepare, to move. Colonel Hampton moves into position at Stone Bridge, and I don't have a picture of that. Then along the Manassas-Sudley Road, General B's brigade moves back into contact with the U.S. 2nd Division. Colonel Bartow is joining and flanking him to the right. And so Colonel Hunter orders small arms fire, and B's brigade suffers more casualties, but they do remain stable on that ridge. I'm sorry that I don't have a picture of this. Bartow does suffer some losses from the defensive fire of Porter's brigade, and then Bartow becomes disorganized and is forced back. Both B and Bartow continue to fire on Hunter's division, and Burnside's brigade does suffer some losses, but continues to hold the position. And the Confederates also use some artillery fire at Porter's brigade, but that has no effect. And then during the Union part of the turn, Hunter's division fails its division attack stoppage check, so it ends up having to fall back out of range of small arms fire. It now has no orders. So General McDowell rides over to Colonel Hunter's headquarters, I guess, to try to get him back into action. Meanwhile, Colonel Heinzelman moves in column, and he starts running into some of Hunter's men. So they remain in column. They don't have enough movement points, so next turn they will form up into position. But that brings the 11:30 turn to an end, and I thank you for watching.